Let me ask you a question. So, say the economy at the time, where in March of 2009 we put $1.25 trillion into the market, quantitative easing. How much was in the market at that time? How much money was circulating at that time? Give me a number, give or take, whatever. Let's make a number up. 10 trillion? 12 trillion?
I look at it on a flow basis because credit creation is actually a flow concept. And whereas, you're asking now about the stock of money, but really the question is how much new money is created. Now that in 2008 was actually negative because banks didn't create credit at the end of 2008. And the central bank, yes, put in trillions, but in total, that was still less than the shrinkage of the money supplied by the banks.
It doesn't matter. All I'm asking is, if we had 10 trillion and we put 1.25 trillion plus another 200 plus another 300 billion, so add that to 1.75 trillion,
okay.
And if we have a 10 trillion, that's 17.5%. My money devalued, went lower.
But it's not. What
$100 became $83.
You have to understand the transaction I'm saying is a transaction to shift assets from A to B inside the banking system. That does not create any money in the economy. It does not increase the money supply at all. And that's why.
So where did the money show up? Or where did the 2 trillion?
It doesn't show up anywhere. Because you're immediately retiring it, you're putting it into these non-performing assets. It's the central bank saying, let's delete these non-performing assets.
Was there money given from central bank to banks?
That's right.
Was there money that went from...
yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So where did that money that the central bank...
It was retired by writing off those non-performing assets. The central bank could just write them off.
But that's still money, though. The money went...
No, it didn't. It just solved the bookkeeping problem.
What am I missing here, Tom?
Well, you have to understand that...
I think what you need... excuse me. I think the point we're missing here, and you need to help us, and when Pat says to take the hat off the complexity for the average person. So right now I have a toxic asset. I'm having to pay interest because that's levered. So that has a cost to me. Correct? I'm collecting from you a payment on this $1 trillion asset. All of a sudden, you can't make the payment anymore. Well, I've got a little tiny payment over here that I was paying to the central bank on the original dollars. So what you're saying is the central bank knows that you're going to stop paying me, so now this is toxic or non-performing asset, right? Not performing anymore, just stuck. So they'll say, I will take it off your balance sheet so you no longer have to pay the interest on the underlying capital, and I'll just take and own this. A minute later, that doesn't show up on my balance sheet, and a minute later, I don't have to make the cost payment, and I'm not getting the revenue payment from you. So therefore, it's off my balance sheet. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so for a consumer, help us understand this, because we're talking in the United States about student loans, and you're the student. And they're saying, well, the students aren't going to be able to pay these, so...
This is bullshit. Let me tell you why this is pissing me off. Here's why I'm getting upset with this.
I'm not agreeing. I'm saying that the student loan thing is
but let me tell you what is happening. So the $1.5 trillion of student debt that we have right now, whatever the number is, we got, I think it's $1 trillion of credit card debt, $1.5 trillion of student loan debt. So I'm here defending not to bail out student loan debt. Right? Because you're weakening the economy if you keep bailing the average person out, right? I'm defending not doing that because I'm defending capitalism. But at the same freaking time, at the top, you guys are doing deals to get in you're essentially bailing out the freaking big banks. How the hell? How do you expect people to not get pissed off?
Well, that's certainly true.
But so now
that's where I was going.
We're about to go into the next phase today that. We're sitting there. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. We keep printing money. Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. The government keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect you. Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect you. And these banks are doing buyback stocks. And then you're essentially the people that are the small business owners that are sitting there saying, no, man, go out there, make your money. You can do it on your own. You can be a small business owner. The market is not unfair. The market is not this. And the average person sitting there saying, but Pat, dude, okay, fine. I want to agree with you, but at the same time, look at these suckers getting bailed out.
Yeah.
How about me? The money never flowed to me. I remember during that time, real legitimate small business owners in 08, 09, after these guys got bailed out, like, okay, great, money's going to flow out. Do you know how difficult it was to get a $200,000 loan from Chase? Chase was saying, no. What do you mean no? Bank of America, no. You just got this money to bail people out. So I can see how this produces the level of division to get the average person to say, here's why I'm pissed off. And by the way, they have a point. And the people that are trying to do it the right way saying, listen, man, I don't have that kind of access to capital. So to say, yeah, don't worry about it. The money doesn't do anything. It's not what you think it is. But is it being printed? Yeah, but it's not the way you think it is. It's a distressed asset, and they're buying 20 at $100. So you're not really going to feel it. I am going to feel it. It's $2 trillion. No, but it's not. So if people like you, who are the intellectuals that have gone and done this research, this is not my world. This is your world. This is why this is why I'm asking you the questions. You're not asking me the questions, right? You're the expert. I'm the guy that's trying to learn from you. My concern is, then the market now is going to have a correction. Let me give you what I think is going to happen, and then give me your argument on what's the right solution now.
Okay, just before then, just to point out where we, that we actually do agree, because you see, there were two problems with this bailout in 2008, 2009 by the Fed, and one was that it was mainly the big banks that were being bailed out, and that is unfair, and that should be criticized, and that is against capitalism. And also,
that's where SIFI came from.
And you see, but the central bank did that because most central banks actually have another agenda, which is not a good one, and that is to concentrate the banking system. And they use that to help the big guys, whereas the small banks, they were not helped, and they had to merge. And so in the last 25 years, 5,000 banks have disappeared in the US, and 5,000 banks have disappeared in the Eurozone under the ECB. And that's the agenda. They want to have fewer and fewer and bigger banks.
This
and that's really bad. That's not good. We should found constantly new, small, local community banks, which is something I'm doing actually. I'm working on that. We have to hold against this. So that is one problem of the way they did it. And I wouldn't have done it the way they did.
That's the old Rothschild-Bilderberg argument, right? That they're going to concentrate everything at the top. Am I correct?
Well, I'm just looking at the data, and the data says in the Eurozone, since the ECB arrived, 5,000 banks have disappeared, and it's not the big ones. It is the small ones. They're being forced.
That's not good.
But you know what I'm asking about, right? There's a long-standing thing. This is World Economic Forum, Davos, is that there are shadow organizations that date back to the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergs, which is aimed toward ultimate elimination of country boundaries and consolidation of the banking system under a single global parent.
Well, actually, you can go back even further. Read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx of 1800 and something.
But Marx came after this part.
right, but it says what they want is one bank, which is the central bank. And so get rid of all these banks. And unfortunately, that very much seems to be the agenda, at least of the ECB. But the second point I wanted to say, where we also very much agree, is the way it was done since 2020 has been very different and even worse. There we have all the bad sides of this intervention. Namely, in 2020, what they did is they forced the banks to increase lending at a time when bank credit was already growing by 6-7%, and the Fed expanded. So we had massive money creation in the economy, and therefore inflation. And that's a big difference, 2008, 2009. So I was forecasting since May 2020, we will get significant inflation.
So can I ask you about that? Can I ask you about that
point? And that hurts
the
the small guys in particular and ordinary people.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's just sometimes it's hard to follow you because you don't appear to breathe, right? Take a breath between sentences. So in 2020 and during COVID, we basically just printed money and gave it to the common man. So what you're saying is, what I'm listening to is, once upon a time, value of money was tied to gold. Gold had a supply. Supply was finite. And there was a value on that gold. So the value of the finite gold supply determined the value of the money, or therefore the money supply at the time. Over time, gold became property and asset bubbles associated, and the banks were actually lending against that at some percentage, right? And so the money supply would go exponentially as banks were making quotas and issuing loans. So I can see how there is also always an asset tie. And then all of a sudden we come to COVID and we print a whole bunch of money in the United States and we give it to the common man. You're saying that's inflationary because it wasn't tied to an asset. And that in 2008, the problem was that the mark-to-market on the asset created an insolvent point for the bank because now the asset flipped. Am I correct?
Well, we don't need the asset. So in my analysis, the asset here is not the key. Money creation, banks can always create money and always could in the past, even in the gold standard.
I'm not declaring. I was following you. I want to make sure I understood.
So are you
Because
asking a
said there-
question or are you verifying what he's saying?
I'm verifying what you're saying, but then
because
I'm
I
asking a
actually have a
question.
question
My
for him.
question is, therefore, because the banks are on quotas to
Yeah.
make loans against things and for businesses. You said that. They said, what's going on? Well, it's the central banker, right? Fukui, is out there telling us we have a quota and we have to make loans. That, you said, was not inflationary. What was inflationary was printing a bunch of money and giving it to the common man.
It was
That's my
creating
question.
In Japan, it was creating asset inflation, which is bad.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.